Good afternoon, everybody. Again, my name is Melissa Buckley. I'm a supervisor with the Division of Immigrant Policies and Affairs, and welcome to a presentation regarding recent updates to labor law. As indicated, if there are questions during today's presentation, please enter them in the chat box and we will do our best to provide answers. Here is our agenda. We will discuss the minimum wage rate increases for 2021 and 2022. Next, we will discuss New York State COVID-19 paid sick leave, including a review of frequently asked questions. Lastly, we will discuss New York State paid sick leave, including a review of frequently asked questions. The current minimum wage in New York City is $15 per hour and will stay at that rate through 2021. The minimum wage on Long Island is currently $13 per hour. That rate will increase at the end of December to $14 per hour and will again increase at the end of 2021 to $15 per hour. The minimum wage rate for the rest of upstate, North Country, Central, and Western New York is currently at $11.80 per hour. It will increase at the end of December to $12.50 per hour. Beginning in 2021, a schedule for future minimum wage increases in upstate New York will be determined by the State Budget Director and the Department of Labor. In response to the outbreak of COVID-19 in New York State, Governor Andrew Cuomo has guaranteed workers job protection and financial compensation in the event they or their minor dependent child are subject to a mandatory or precautionary order of quarantine or isolation issued by the State of New York, the Department of Health, local Board of Health, or any government entity duly authorized to issue such order due to COVID-19. What are the worker benefits under New York State COVID-19 paid leave? The benefits will depend on the employer size and annual income. An employer with 1 to 10 employees as of 1/1/20 and an annual net income in 2019 of $1 million or less, then the employer is not required to provide new paid sick leave days. Instead, employees will use paid family leave and disability benefits. For employers with over $1 million in net income, the employer must provide at least 5 paid sick days. An employer with 11 through 99 employees must provide at least 5 paid sick days. An employer with 100 or more employees must provide at least 14 paid sick days. So at what rate of pay does leave need to be paid? For the applicable paid leave period, either 5 or 14 days, employers must pay the amount that the worker would have otherwise received had they been continuing to work for that period based upon the amount that the employee was scheduled to work or would have been scheduled to work had the employer's operations continued in its normal due course. Employees who work a fixed schedule or are paid a salary should simply continue to receive pay for the applicable period. For hourly, part-time, commission salespersons, or other employees who are not paid a fixed wage, employers should determine the employee's pay by looking at a representative period of time to set the employee's average daily pay rate. we'll go over some frequently asked questions. Are employees eligible for New York State quarantine leave benefits if they are quarantined because of travel due to a state affected by the Travel Advisory Executive Order? No. Employees who voluntarily travel to any state affected by the travel advisory after June 25th of 2020 will not be eligible for New York State quarantine leave benefits if the travel was not taken as part of their employment or at the employer's direction. Will employees have to repay the benefits they received during COVID-19 quarantine leave? No. Employees are not required to repay any benefits. Does citizenship or immigration status affect an employee's eligibility for COVID-19 paid leave? No. Citizenship or immigration status is not a factor in eligibility. Is an employee's job protected during COVID-19 quarantine leave? Yes, the employee's job is protected during leave. The employer cannot fire or take action against employees because they took leave. Employees are entitled to be restored to the position held prior to taking leave. Any COVID-19 quarantine leave should not be counted as an absence that may lead to or result in discipline, discharge, demotion, suspension, or any other adverse action. Affected employees may file a complaint with the Department of Labor on the webpage displayed. And I will pause momentarily if anybody would like to write that page down. More information on the New York State COVID-19 leave is available on the site displayed on the screen. Now, we will pause to review any questions that appeared in the chat box and answer those questions as possible. Jill? Jill, I'm sorry, we can't hear you. Are there any questions available for answering?
I'm sorry, Melissa, I'm helping someone on the phone try to get in, but were you asking if there were any questions?
Yes, sorry to interrupt that. So we just finished the COVID-19 leave, and if there are any questions in the chat box, we could present them to Jeanette Lozelle at this time.
Nope, there are no questions in the chat box. Oh, let's see. Will you be able to provide the slides so we can share within our organization?
Hi, this is Jeanette. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great. So we are recording this presentation, and we will make it available online so that if folks want to come back and take a look at it again or share it, they can.
Also, on the web pages that we're providing, there's a lot of information as well as some different fact sheets, not only about the legislation, but then about particular industries as well. So I highly encourage folks to take a look at these websites and dig in. If there are no further questions at this moment anyway for COVID-19 leave, I will go on to our next topic. I'll give one more second before we move on.
Does not look like we have any further questions, Melissa.
Okay, thanks so much. All right, I'm going to go ahead and move on to our second topic. Okay, next, we will talk about New York State paid sick leave, which is separate and apart from the COVID sick pay. Here are some key dates to know. April 3rd, 2020, Governor Andrew Cuomo signed a bill to provide employees in New York State with sick leave. September 30th, 2020, covered employees in New York State started to accrue leave at a rate of 1 hour for every 30 hours worked. January 1st, 2021, which is just right around the corner, employees may start using this accrued leave. The amount of sick leave depends on the size of the employer. Employers with 4 or fewer employees and a net income of less than $1 million in the prior tax year must provide employees with up to 40 hours of unpaid sick leave. Employers with between 5 and 99 employees and employers with 4 or fewer employees and a net income of greater than $1 million in the prior tax year must provide each employee with up to 40 hours of paid sick leave per year. Employers with 100 or more employees will provide up to 56 hours of paid sick leave per year. Next, we'll talk about how employees accrue the sick time. Leave must be accrued at a rate not less than 1 hour for every 30 hours worked. As an alternative to employees accruing 1 hour for every 30 hours worked, employers may choose to provide the full amount of sick leave required by this law at the beginning of each calendar year. For example, a business with over 100 employees could provide 56 hours of sick leave to each employee starting January 1 of each year, or at the beginning of a 12-month period as determined by the start date of employees. Such upfront sick leave is not subject to later revocation or reduction if, for instance, the employee works fewer hours than anticipated by the employer. Next, we'll talk about the permitted uses of paid sick time. After January 1, 2021, employees may use accrued leave following a verbal or written request to their employer for the following reasons impacting the employee or a member of their family for whom they are providing care or assistance with care. Sick leave for mental or physical illness, injury, or health condition, regardless of whether such illness, injury, or health condition has been diagnosed or requires medical care at the time of the request for leave, or for the diagnosis, care, or treatment of a mental or physical illness, injury, or health condition of, or need for medical diagnosis of, or preventive care. Continuing the reasons, safe leave. Safe leave for an absence from work when the employee or employee's family member has been the victim of domestic violence as defined by the state human rights law, a family offense, sexual offense, stalking, or human trafficking due to any of the following insofar as it relates to the domestic violence, family offense, sexual offense, stalking, or human trafficking. To obtain services from a domestic violence shelter, rape crisis center, or other services program. To participate in safety planning, temporarily or permanently relocate, or take other actions to increase the safety of the employee or employee's family members. To meet with an attorney or other social services provider to obtain information and advice on and prepare for or participate in any criminal or civil proceeding. To file a complaint or domestic incident report with law enforcement. Continuing the topic, to meet with a district attorney's office, to enroll children in a new school, or to take any other actions necessary to ensure the health or safety of the employee or the employee's family member, or to protect those who associate or work with the employee. Here's information regarding employees using the paid sick leave accruals. Employers are permitted to require that leave be used in increments. For example, 15 minutes, 1 hour, etc. But may not set the minimum increment at more than 4 hours. Employers are permitted to limit the leave taken in any year to the maximum amount required to be provided to such employee. Any limitations permitted by the law must be put into writing and either posted or given to employees. Employers must notify employees in writing or by posting a notice in the worksite prior to the leave being earned of any restrictions in their leave policy affecting the employee's use of leave, including any limitations on leave increments. For record keeping, employers must keep payroll records for 6 years, which must include the amount of sick leave accrued and used by each employee on a weekly basis. Upon the request of an employee, employers are required to provide, within 3 business days, a summary of the amounts of sick leave accrued and used by such employee in the current calendar year and/or any previous calendar year. Next, let's review some frequently asked questions. If a business with 15 full-time, year-round employees also hires seasonal part-time workers, must the employer provide sick leave to these part-time seasonal workers as well? Yes. For the purposes of this law, an employee is defined as any person employed for hire by an employer in any employment. If an employer has 5 or more employees, but fewer than 100, all employees, including part-time seasonal workers, are entitled to accrue 1 paid sick hour for every 30 hours they work. Do employees continue to earn sick leave while using paid sick leave under this law? No. Employees are only required to be credited with leave time for hours worked and not for hours spent using sick leave time under this law. Do employees accrue leave for pay received for non-working time? No. Employees do not accrue leave for payments that are not for hours worked, such as bonuses or subject to call time. However, time that is considered hours worked, including on-call time, training time, and travel time must be counted for the purposes of accruing leave. Can an employee use sick leave for doctor, dentist, eye doctor, or other routine appointments? Yes. Employees may use sick leave for appointments when they require treatment for a condition or for preventive medical care. Does sick leave include bereavement leave? Can an employee use accrued sick leave when there is a death in their family? Permissible reasons to use accrued sick leave do not include a period of bereavement. However, employers must provide sick leave for a mental or physical illness, injury, or health condition, regardless of whether they have been diagnosed or require medical care, as well as for the preventative care for such illnesses, injuries, or conditions. If an employer has been ordered to close temporarily due to a public health emergency, may employees use accrued sick leave during the period of closure? Whether or not the usage of sick leave in this scenario would be fact-specific depending on the type of health emergency, including the risk of contagion and other health considerations. Accrued sick leave may be used by an employee for preventive care of a mental or physical illness, injury, or health condition. Does an employee's immigration status affect whether they are entitled to sick leave under the law? No. An employee's immigration status has no effect on their eligibility for sick leave benefits under this law. How is New York State paid sick leave different from New York State COVID-19 paid leave? Sick leave under this law is separate and additional to the quarantine leave for employees subject to a precautionary or mandatory order of quarantine or isolation related to COVID-19. And use of COVID-19 leave does not impact or otherwise utilize an employee's paid sick leave accruals or usage. More information on New York State paid sick leave is available on the webpage displayed. Again, I would encourage folks to take a look at these pages because they are filled with information, not only about the laws, but about particular industries as well as fact sheets. So again, now we will pause, and Jill, if you could let us know if there are any questions in the chat box, and we would be available to answer them.
Sure, we'll give it a minute. I do not see any as of yet.
Okay, and 1 second, I will go to our final slide that does have our specific follow-up contact information, just giving everybody a second to jot down this webpage. So any additional?
We do not have any questions.
Okay, great. Any additional questions may be directed to our general email, dipa@labor.ny.gov, or our hotline number, which is 877-466-9757. I am going to pause just one last time to see if we have any questions coming in. I thought I saw something flash on the screen.
Yes, we have one for employers with greater than 100 employees. Are they required to give sick leave?
With more than 100 employees?
Yes.
Sure. I'm happy to go back to that slide if it's helpful. Sorry, I'm getting there. It's back at the beginning of this section. Here we go. Right, so for more than 100 employees, that's going to be up to the 56 hours of paid leave. For the individual who submitted the question, is this the slide that is probably the most helpful? Is this what you were getting at?
They are following up and saying greater than 100 full-time employees required to give sick leave for part-time employees in that company.
Correct. Yeah, that goes back to whether they're kind of that question with the temporary workers. Yes, the part-time employees as well. Again, our general email box is dipa@labor.ny.gov, and our hotline number, 877-466-9757. This is not the only opportunity to ask questions, so if you'd like to review the materials, review the websites, and if something comes up that you'd like to reach out, we are available in the future or really at any time to answer any questions that may come up.
Melissa, she says that is helpful, and if you wanted to go back to that slide with the link on it, I can copy and paste it into the chat for them.
Sure. Whoops, no, I got all the way out, sorry. There you go. So I'm displaying the web page for the paid sick leave that is separate and apart from the COVID-19 leave. I'll go back to our final slide. And again, that has our contact information. There's obviously a lot to digest here, so again, this is not the only opportunity to dialogue with us about this. We're happy to take any follow-up questions after the fact.